Another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. Brian Hines from Pat's Pulpit here, as always, with Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. And Alex and I are about 3 hours off the hot Gillette Stadium practice fields. Both a little red in the face. I got some funky bucket hat hair going on here, but we manned through the elements for everyone to watch some Day 3 of Patriots training camp, and we'll get into all of it, break it down here, because they were in shells today, a start that we're starting to ramp up a little bit. Pads will be on the horizon next week, but we'll quickly jump into attendance because there was a few changes today. Christian Barmore was out. That doesn't appear to be anything serious. He welcomed the new addition to his family, so congrats to him, obviously.
On his birthday, too.
On his birthday.
I have a friend like that his daughter was born on his birthday. You got to share your birthday.
How about that? So we'd expect him to be back relatively soon. Nothing serious there. Well, serious football related, obviously, but
right.
Ty Montgomery, we talked about him a lot the last 2 days. We saw him leave practice yesterday early with that left leg ankle injury. He wasn't out there today. Whether that still is precautionary, they have a day off tomorrow, so they were saying maybe just take 2 days or not, but that was an early change here in attendance and a big one because we both kind of thought he'd have a role here if he was healthy.
Right. Yeah, I think, and Bill Belichick described him as day-to-day. I think it's notable he's not on the field because here we go already. This has been the topic round of how much can you build into the offense for a guy who's a unique player and you need to build things in for. How much can you build into the offense for a guy that you don't know if he's going to be on the field or not and already missing time? I do think that's definitely concerning for his chances to be a contributor this season. Like, I think if he's healthy, he's going to make the team, but how much is he going to be asked to do?
Mm-hmm. I mean, they were doing a positional drill, running back, or all teams positional drills, and their running back room, they pulled Pierre Strawn over to do some special teams work, and it looked light. There were only 3 bodies over there today. Ramondre picked it up. He was kind of limited. He was full go today, and then Kevin Harris and J.J. Taylor. So I know that Dalvin Cook meeting's potentially on the radar here, but that running back room is looking a little light. So we'll see what develops there. But, mentioning Montgomery, he was one of the really – in the opening few days or day that he was out there, he was a big part of the offense, right? He was getting open. He was a favorite target of Mac and Bailey Zappi, but without him, they haven't had a guy, and this today was really like on display. The receivers are having a lot of issues separating. It seems there's not a lot of open guys for Mac to go to. Right outside of Hunter Henry, I'd say he's had a good few days, and they were still in that red zone area. So things are tight quarters. Mike Gesicki said after practice, right, we're just running basic concepts. We're not scheming things up, but not a lot of separation. And maybe the bigger thing is, because you brought it up yesterday, how big their receiving core is and their tight ends.
Right.
A lot of jump balls that they're not bringing down, right? Like, we'll talk about the defense, but Jonathan Jones broke up a few jump balls to Devontae Parker, which is something you'd like Devontae Parker to win in that situation, having 4 to 5 inches. But so that seemed like a little concern there in the red zone today.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great start for the receivers. And like you said, I think people are going to want to point at that and say, well, Mac Jones has been terrible. That's why they can't complete any passes. Like, Mac Jones, I thought, and Bailey Zappi as well, have been putting the ball in places where the receivers can make plays. I go back to Demario Douglas today, had a couple of plays where he did a good job off the route and off the break to get himself in position to make a catch, to give the quarterback a window. And, the one against, I think it was Amir Speed, Bailey Zappi actually put the ball in a really good spot for him. Like, hit him right in the hands in a very small window on a back shoulder throw in the back corner, and Douglas just dropped it. So whether it's not getting open, whether it's not holding onto the football, Tyquan had a drop today as well. I think that, who else? Oh, no, I'm thinking of Booty had 2. Keyshawn Booty had 2, and then Thornton had 1. So it's not, it hasn't, like, the quarterbacks haven't been perfect. And Mac didn't throw a pick today, though. I thought today was his best day so far. Quarterbacks haven't been perfect, but I think there's been a lot more there for the offense, and it's just the wide receivers haven't been making the plays you expect them to make. You talk about the jump ball thing, and Devontae Parker, he had one nice catch today, but you're right, got beat by Jonathan Jones a couple of times. I think the other tough part of that is if it's going to be a jump ball bonanza, where's Mike Gesicki? He had the nice catch in 7s yesterday, but we really haven't seen him in 11s. And that's another guy that, again, if they're going to be jump ball heavy, Gesicki's 6'6" with a 40-inch vertical. That's a guy that should be a part of that.
Yep. He's one of 3. It's him, Tyquan, and Kendrick Bourne. And we discussed maybe the latter 2 there aren't really your red zone threats, but Mike Gesicki should be one of those guys. And neither of them have caught a pass in competitive 11s in the red zone.
Has Bourne not? So I saw that. I feel like Bourne did on day 1.
He has.
Okay, maybe not. I know Thornton hasn't. I know Gesicki hasn't. I thought I remembered Bourne doing it, but maybe it was 7s, and I'm misremembering.
I think it was. I think it was 7s.
Okay.
But it kind of like Gesicki said. I just mentioned that they're not scheming things up, right? And it kind of goes back to where this all started in the offseason, why we were clamoring for a number 1 wide receiver even a few weeks ago with DeAndre Hopkins, and that it was just their receivers. They're not always going to be good enough just to win one-on-one. We saw this issue a lot last year when it was a really simple offense and they were asking these guys to win on one-on-one. So it's just back to a lot of pressure on Bill O'Brien and a lot of things on his scheme, because you're going to have to rely on him to scheme these guys open, especially in the red zone down here, because it doesn't look very good when you're just asking these guys to win one-on-one or win these jump balls. So hopefully when, they start getting more into it here and Bill O'Brien is able to, run some more things, we'll start seeing more success in that area and other parts of the field.
You hope so, because it's not good enough right now. And if this is going to be what does them in, and it's because, I don't know, did you see the catch Hopkins made in Tennessee today?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he wasn't necessarily separated there either. And that's why I think the concept of separation is overrated.
Yep.
But if this is going to be the offense you're going to be, where you're using Mac Jones' accuracy to fit the ball in the small windows and you're banking on contested catches, you can't be dropping passes. You can't be allowing corners to break passes up, get their hands on the ball. And that's really been the problem the last 2 days, is the cornerbacks have been much more aggressive and much more successful at the catch point. Even when Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi puts the ball in the right spot, the defense, I say corners, everybody, linebackers, safeties, everybody on defense has been really aggressive in getting to the football at the catch point, where the pass catchers haven't quite been up to that level.
Yeah, I think there were about 7 or 8 pass breakups today. John Jones.
There were a lot today, yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot.
John Jones had a couple. Jack Jones had a really nice one.
Yep.
I want to get into Christian Gonzalez. He had a few. I think Adrian Phillips had one. That's just off the top of my head, but yeah. Should
we do Gonzalez now? Because he was awesome.
Yeah. He was the best player on the field today.
He was really awesome. He had he's showing kind of those athletic traits that we all saw coming out of college. He had one where he kind of those transitions, he knocked one away from Tyquan Thornton. He's in really good coverage on another one, Kendrick Bourne, that fell incomplete. And even when I've been watching him a lot, just because I love watching him, even when the ball's not thrown to him, but just looks really smart. Looks like he has their system down. He's blanketed Juju a bunch of times, made his life pretty difficult. So it's just everything you want to see from him, and he we knew he had those elite traits, and it looks like they're carrying over to the field as we kind of hope to see.
There was one rep where he's on Thornton on the boundary, and Thornton runs kind of an over. It was like a short over because they're in red zone, but kind of an over, and Gonzalez is right there with them, and Mac kind of cuts back in the pocket to extend the play, and it was actually the read by Thornton was right. He sees it and he tries to cut back in, and Gonzalez read it the same way. And as Thornton starts coming back across, and look, Thornton's not Earl Campbell, but as he starts coming back across, Christian Gonzalez is right there. And it's basically either you're going to have to run over me, and that's OPI, or you're going to have to go, around me and slow down the route. And Thornton just kind of got held up. I think Thornton at that point kind of froze out. And I believe that when Mac Jones actually ended up completing, I think he came back and hit Devontae Parker on the backside, but it was a really high level rep from Christian Gonzalez. And it's not a pass breakup. It's not a targeted incompletion. It doesn't go in the books as anything, but it was a wide receiver making a sight adjustment, which is something you're going to see a lot more in the NFL than in college, especially in the Pac-12. I doubt he saw that much. And he was right there. He was with it. He stepped out at the same time. That rep, more so some of the pass breakers, he had a really good coverage rep on Bourne too. That one was up there, but I thought the rep on Thornton, I think I was standing next to you at that. Oh no, I was standing next to Kevin from why am I blanking on Kevin's last name? From New England Football Journal. And we both just were like, whoa, because we were both watching it. That was a really impressive rep.
Outside corner for him, where he should be. John Jones back on the other outside corner today after working in the slot yesterday. Him and Marcus might have switched a little. That might look where they're headed here. John Jones was excellent too. We mentioned all the pass breakups. Marcus Jones looked pretty good in the slot. That's probably where he's at best. So kind of looks like where that cornerback trio might be shaking out. We'll see how Jack Jones obviously factors into that. And then the safeties are the safeties. They look good as expected. That's probably their best room as we figured.
Yeah. And I think on the corners, I think they are trying some. I think they're experimenting for what it's going to look like if they don't have Jack Jones. I think that's why you're seeing guys move around a lot. There is going to be some flexibility, and they are going to move guys around, from game to game and even from snap to snap because they have that ability. But I think last year they had to go to a spot where Marcus Jones was playing on the boundary, and it's less likely that happens this year. They have a little more depth, but it's not impossible either. So I just think they want everybody to be ready to play everywhere. And we'll see when the pads come on and they get into some of the live stuff, if they're still rotating or if they have a set group.
Yep. And Marte Mapu still hasn't made any splash plays like he did in the spring, but see the versatility. He's working second, third levels, even in the red zone. So that's exciting. Staying with
some at slot corner today at one point.
Yeah. Yep. Working all around. Keon White, even in the rookies, even though I can't wait to see him in the pads. He's going to be awesome. But he blew up one play at Bailey Zappi before he even got to the back of his drop, which was fun. But defense, I'd say throughout the 3 days are kind of the winners here. And
you
go.
Sorry, I thought you were going offense, defense. I just want to make one more separate point on the offense, but you can keep going there.
I was just gonna say through the first 3 days, defense probably upper hand, kind of like we expected in that red zone, and they have the familiarity and everything. But they got Judon back today, which we might get into a little later with player quotes. But that was kind of where the defense was at. So you can get into your offensive points here.
Yeah, I mean, the big one for me on offense is we actually saw some movement at tackle, and it had been Riley Reif the first 2 days as the top tackle, and today he split that with Calvin Anderson and continued to rep with the second team. That's not a great sign for Riley Reif that they're bringing in somebody else before the pads even come on, because usually you don't make that move until the pads come on. Now, maybe they just want to give Connor McDermott a look, but for what it is for a non-padded practice, it's been a tough go of it to start off for Riley Reif. I think his foot speed doesn't look like it's at the level it used to be. And that's going to be tough for him because he's not this big overpowering guy. We'll see when the pads come on if things maybe change, but it should be a competition. It should be a competition at right tackle. Even with the money they gave Riley Reif, I don't think he should be a guy that's a lock to win that job. And I'm glad that they're starting to rotate in McDermott. We'll see what happens when Calvin Anderson gets back.
Yeah. You mentioned the foot speed. That's the big thing. You saw Uche blow by him, which, it's Uche. That's what he does. But then Jelani Tavai the other day. I think Anthony Jennings even blew by him today once. So that's
Tavai had another good day today, by the way.
Yeah, he did. He's just stacking them on top.
He's stacking days.
Yeah. Exciting there. But a lot of 3 tight end stuff, too, today. I don't know if you caught that. Matt Sokol is getting the call up, which I was talking to Taylor, Kyle, CLNS here, and he said, that's O'Brien ran a lot of that in Houston, even a little in 2011. So we're kind of, I don't know if they're going to keep a third tight end on the 53-man roster unless one has a really good summer here, but O'Brien likes these packages, and Sokol was kind of that first guy up. He made a nice catch yesterday. So something to watch here as the competition, continues and picks up.
He does seem to be the favorite in that group, although I will say Mike Gesicki after practice was very complimentary of Johnny Lumpkin. So
caught a touchdown today.
He did catch touch. And I don't know what it was, but did you hear that ball hit his hands? Like the pop, it sounded like a baseball hitting a mitt. So not for nothing. I don't know. We'll see what happens with those guys. We got to see Lumpkin when the pads come on because he's a blocker first and foremost. And we got to see what he does there. But yeah, some 12, even some 13 today after they've been mainly in 11 the first 2 days. So that was good to see.
Yep. And we'll get more of they started doing a little more of the run game today with the shells, but still that's going to be something to watch how that develops when we get full pads and full field and all that stuff, because it was still constricted to that red area. So that will be something to watch too as we go forward here.
Right. Yeah.
But you mentioned Demario Douglas, another good day. He was involved, really, really active underneath as we kind of expected with that size and that quickness. Favorite target of Bailey Zappi, I'd say. Still works in with Mac Jones though at times. And then the other rookie, Kayshon Boutte, he had some nice moments off the line of scrimmage, but he just hasn't been able to finish one of them, right? He's had a few opportunities on jump balls in the end zone, but just hasn't been able to haul one in and finish a play yet. So it still looks like Douglas kind of has the upper hand for that fifth job right now, I'd say.
It's going to be about which one of those guys can put it together. Like the other one today was Trey Nixon at one point ran a really nice route on Jack Jones. Really nice out route, got himself open. But look, it wasn't a perfect throw from Bailey Zappi. Kind of let him out of bounds, but it's one an NFL receiver should catch, and he kind of let the ball carry him out of bounds before he get his feet down. So that's another one. Like if Trey Nixon makes that catch, I think that's something we're talking about from today. Hey, Trey Nixon had a really impressive rep, but he, again, not a perfect throw from Zappi, but that's one you want to see him catch. And unfortunately, just kind of pulled him out of bounds a little bit.
Yep. It'll be interesting how that shakes out. But that was pretty much my player-by-player position notes. I don't know any other thing that caught your eye there throughout the day.
I had a couple of really small ones. We're going to dive deep into the minutia now. So prepare yourself for this, Brian. I noticed that Diego Fagot. So we know that there are like special teams players who are listed at other positions but work with special teams. Like Brendan Schooler is listed as a safety, but when the Patriots go into positional drills, Brendan Schooler's not with the safeties. He's with Matthew Slater and Joe Judge and Cam McCord. DeMarcus Mitchell's like that. We've seen Jordan Healig do that here. And I think when they signed Diego Fagot, because 6'2", 240, not super athletic, but he throws his body around. All right, special teams player. He's been with the linebackers, though, during those drills. And that's not to say he hasn't done anything on special teams. He's been involved when they go into team special teams periods. But the path to a roster spot for him is not on defense.
Yeah.
They are loaded at linebacker. The path to a roster spot for him is on special teams. So I don't know if they're like, hey, if you're here, you got to be ready on defense just in case. Like, you got to know, and he just signs. They're trying to catch him up. Or if they think that they have a plan for him a linebacker, but that was interesting to me to see him with the linebackers rather than with the specialists.
Yeah, because they have a lot of bodies there. Even like the guy who's here for special teams, Chris Board, he's playing a good amount of linebacker, I'd say, with that second unit. And we mentioned, like, he's one of those guys. He's not like a Brandon Kane who's only going to be a specialist. Chris Board can play a little linebacker. But, yeah, you figured if Diego would make the roster here, it would be that Brendan Schooler specialist-only role. So interesting to see there. We'll kind of see how that shakes out.
And then my one other note, we did get a good amount of special team stuff today. Still no team punt drills. So I know people want the hang time. Some people have asked me where the hang times are. They haven't done a team punt drill yet. So I don't do it for the individual punts because usually guys are experimenting on things and working on things. So I don't want to, grade guys on punts that are, they're testing things out. They're not live reps. I really only like to do it on live reps. So there's a reason there's been no hang times yet. It's because they haven't punted. But they did do a couple of kickoff periods today. It was mainly Corliss Waitman as the kickoff guy with Nick Folk mixing in. Neither he's got a rep. That tells me that right now it's Waitman and Folk for those jobs. And I had Waitman with the slight edge coming out of camp. That one doesn't surprise me as much. I'm going to keep Nick Folk over a fourth-round pick. And look, I don't think getting Chad Ryland to the practice squad, that would surprise me. that would be a big surprise and it would, retroactively a very interesting draft decision. Now, some people have suggested maybe they keep 3 kickers and have a kickoff specialist, but okay, neither of the rookies are doing kickoffs right now. So is Corliss Waitman in Ryland? So is he just going to be the field goal kicker? They did a field goal period too. Nick Folk was clearly with the first team in that setup. It's early still, and I think Friday is going to be next Friday is going to be a really big day when we have that in-stadium practice. But it looks like the veterans are the favorites right now in the kicking competition.
So Ryland did get some word yesterday with kickoffs, and he finished practice kicking. But yeah, it was back to Folk today. I had him. It was tough to see. He was on like the far opposite field. I had him 4 for 5. I don't know if you had a better angle and could track it.
I never.
It's tough.
The field goals. It's so tough to tell. But I will. So you mentioned Ryland kicked yesterday, but today, it would have been very easy. They did 2 separate kickoff periods. It would have been very easy to do one with Folk, one with Ryland. They were both Folk, and then did you see how they did the field goal drill today? It was a little different.
It was one behind the other.
Right. Nick Folk and the first team were lined up at the 25 and they were doing live reps, and they had the second team further back and it was live for everybody else. But Ryland, I mean, he's 60 yards away. He's just kind of running up to the ball and stopping. So it really looked a lot like first team, second team.
Yep. So we'll see. Mention Friday. That'll be a big one. In stadium, see how it shakes out. Bill mentioned they got in there in the spring a little, so they seem to have a good idea how that new scoreboard might affect wind patterns and things. But interesting how that kicking competition will shake out, especially if they're going to cut ties with a 4th-round pick, which I just don't see them doing because it's 4th-round pick and Ryland. Someone just mentioned to AJ in the comments, Ryland, his leg, he's got a more powerful leg. You can kind of see it.
Right.
You can hear it come off harder. Looks like he gets a little more air on it, so I'd expect it to go there. But yeah, we'll see how that kind of shakes out over the next few days, and the preseason games will be big for those.
Yeah, that's going to be. You got to be in stadium to really tell the special team stuff.
Yep. All right, so should we hear from our pals at FanDuel and then get into a little player availability and what we're looking for over the next week or so?
Let's do that.
Your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times, that's 10 times your first bet amount of bonus bets and up to $200. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you could spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be, hitting the first home run. All in the app that's safe, secure, it's super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/Boston and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
All right, so I'd say one of the biggest off-the-field storylines throughout the first few days is Matt Judon, because first 2 days really limited, didn't participate in any team drills. He would go down low and do conditioning. Today he was back up for the first time, went through team drills, positional drills, then finished with the competitive drills. He talked for the first time. There was some speculation whether it was contract related because he is underpaid for his production position. He said no. He said working with the trainers, the coaches, just to get his conditioning where it needs to be. He's happy here, but I don't know. Do you think there's a pay bump coming in his future here?
I could see it. It would be smart for the team to do it. I think he's a guy that might take a hometown discount based on some of the things he said recently, and he's going to be expensive if he gets to the open market. He's a guy you want happy. He's a cornerstone guy. He's a guy that you can kind of build a culture around. Yeah, he's a guy I think they could pay. It's going to be interesting because it's him and Duggar are the two guys that they probably need to get contracts for before the start of the season. It's which one do you do first and the timing and all of that. It'll be interesting to see, but they should pay Judon.
Yeah. he'd probably be easier than Duggar. I mean, Cincinnati just kind of gave you the path with Trey Hendrickson. 2 years left on his deal, just like Judon. They just gave him an extra year, $21 million in new money. It was a $5 million raise this year. Same, I think it was same next year, and then the 15 or 16 million that tacked on year. So that seems like it would make sense, right? We all know they have the money. They have the money this year. They have the money going forward. So take care of probably your best player. Take care of one of your leaders and loudest voices in the locker room, and keep them happy. So I hope that transpires here, but we'll see, right? We don't know what's going on and what Bill's thoughts are.
Right. I do think he said, and from what I've heard, I don't think it's a hold in that he's been limited. I think the two things are, and obviously he's going to say, well, I shouldn't say obviously he's going to say that, because if he's holding in, he may want it out there that he's holding in, and it's fan pressure on the team. So, but from what I've heard, the two are unrelated. I don't know what it is. Like there's something he said he's working with the training staff. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think that him being limited the first 2 days and him wanting a new contract are separate. I don't think he wants a new contract to the extent that he's going to hold in and not practice.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
And it was, look, what did I say? I'm doing so many shows. I don't know. On one of the shows, I think it was this one, I said, look, I'll be concerned if he's not out there once the full pads come on. And today wasn't full pads, but it was shells, and they did up the intensity a little bit. And look, he was out there. So there you go.
Yep. And he was talking, he can't wait to get the pads on, right? So looks like he'll be ready to go. But anyone else kind of catch your eye? I don't know who you listened to in availability today.
Gonzalez is a good quote. Gonzalez is a good quote. He gave some interesting answers today. I thought it was interesting for him to, he was asked what has been the biggest adjustment for him from college to the pros. And he said speed, and not just the player speed, but everything, the speed at which they practice, the speed at which the reps happen, the speed at which they go from drill to drill. That in itself was an interesting answer. And then Mike Gesicki was asked what his first impression of Bill O'Brien is, what his first impression of the offense has been. And he said the discipline. He said, we don't have guys jumping off sides. We don't have guys lining up out of position. We don't, like, everybody knows the play. It's almost like he knew what happened here last year. So you put those two together. I think, honestly, I should have started with Gesicki's answer. That's more notable because he's on offense, and offense is where the issues were last year. But I thought those were interesting. Again, it's what we've been talking about through the first 3 days. Now you're hearing players talk about it. It's a well-oiled machine. It's a well-oiled machine down there. They're back to operating a professional NFL practice, which again is a super low bar, but it is a bar they did need to clear this summer.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the execution isn't always there in these early stages as they're working through things, but it's clean. There's a rhythm to it. Gesicki said today, like, they're just learning to line up. They're learning to communicate, and there haven't been issues. And we all knew there were a lot of issues there last year. So good building blocks. So now when they put the pads on and they start scheming things up, they can just go, and they don't have to rewind and then keep going. Like, 2 step forwards, 1 step back. They can just hopefully hit the ground running and go. So that was interesting to hear from Gesicki.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yep. But Riley Reef, I wasn't at Reef. Were you at Reef?
He was tough to hear. He was very quiet. Yeah. Somebody started. Oh, it's Gonzalez started talking right after Reef, so I went over to Gonzalez.
That's who I heard. Gonzalez and Gesicki and Judon at the end there. So that was the main kind of takeaways from player quotes, I'd say. But so 3 days down, we're kind of on track of what we predicted yesterday with our pads here. We should be in pads Monday, Tuesday, and then dial it back Wednesday, and then full throttle Thursday, and then dial it back for that in-stadium Friday. So when we open pads Monday, Tuesday, what are you kind of be looking for? What are the big things there?
Trenches, man. Yep. Trenches. We can start getting into that right tackle position battle. We're going to get a better chance to see Keon White, Marte Mapu, what they can do. Judon, where's he at now, given he was limited? And then also like Christian Gonzalez in real press coverage. What does he look like there? So we still got one more practice before we get there, but I think that you can start kind of paying attention to that stuff.
Yeah, they'll be practicing Sunday. Do they have they have to take the shells off, or can they do shells again?
No, they can do shells again, but I'm going to guess it's going to be a really low tempo practice.
Yeah.
Like today was pretty up tempo.
Yeah.
Today was for early in camp for pre-pads. That's pretty much as hard as you're going to go. I think tomorrow is going to be all right, getting everybody on the same page for what it's going to be when the pads come on Monday.
Yeah, that would make sense. But trenches will be fun because they need that tackle position figured out. See kind of how that right guard rotation keeps going with Mike Onwenu still out, and then defensive line, Judon, Jelani Tavai, can he keep the success going with the pads come on? And Marte Mapu, right? How will he fly around with contact?
Yeah.
That'll be exciting to watch. So some good stuff coming on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we're I kind of said that piece on whatever it was Wednesday or Thursday that like I hate the first few days of practice. They're annoying because everybody overreacts to practices that in the grand scheme of things really don't hate in terms of evaluation. Well, now we're almost to that evaluation period. We're almost to like camp really starting. Once the pads come on, that's when training camp really starts.
Yep, and they'll probably be moving out of the red zone, right? So we can get some of that middle of the field stuff. Hopefully we'll get maybe a little more Tyquan Thornton and Kendrick Bourne involved as we get to the middle of the field and start really scheming some stuff up. And as we mentioned earlier, the run game. So some of this offensive foundation with Bill O'Brien might be getting better look, right? Better map it out, how that's going to look with him coordinating this thing this year.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. Anything else, or should we just wrap it up here and
do you want to take a few questions maybe here?
Yeah, we could do that.
If people have a few questions about camp, if you want to get them in real quick, we could throw those in the chat. Maybe we'll answer one or two before we get out of here. If you're looking for more, I did have Evan on the Sports Hub Patriots podcast yesterday, so that's up on the Sports Hub YouTube channel. Everybody should go subscribe to that. There was one question, hang on, way in the beginning, somebody asked about Mapu gaining the 13 pounds. Could we address that? He doesn't look bigger, and I don't know, like that red jersey is really baggy, so it might be tough to tell. We're gonna see really on Monday when the pads come on, if he's out there, if he's doing contact, like is that functional playing weight, and does he look stronger and all that? He's still moving well, so that's encouraging. But he doesn't look significantly bigger. Whereas like I was saying to somebody today, like having seen Demario Douglas at the Shrine Bowl and seeing him now,
he looks bigger.
I don't know that he put on whatever it was 22 pounds that he was credited for, but like his body type changed. He's much more muscular now than he was back in January. So that's a guy that I think like legit put on some legit weight.
Yep.
This was about Mike Onwenu. Is he hurt or holding out? He's hurt. He hurt his ankle in the last game of the year against Buffalo, had surgery in the offseason, so he's still been out for that. He's on PUP. So he's hurt. He is eligible for an extension, but he is not holding out. That is purely injury related. How many podcasts am I doing today? Just 2. Yesterday? I did 3 podcasts, 2 radio hits, and the live thing with Sarge before practice. So the Patriots ramped it up today. I'm dialing it back a little bit today. I had my first big day of camp yesterday. Would Kayshon Boutte make it to the practice squad, or is he just going to be released outright? I think he's a draft pick. I think they want to keep him on the practice squad. Yeah. Does he get to the practice squad? If he has a really good camp, I don't know. Somebody else might sign him. But I would assume if he doesn't make the roster, they're going to try to get him on the practice squad.
Yeah. I think with his potential that we all kind of knew coming out of LSU, it's going to be up to how he looks in probably joint practices in the preseason, right? If he can flash a little bit of that, then someone's going to take the chance on him if they can just put a waiver claim in for him. But if he struggles throughout and he doesn't flash much, then I think he's a practice squad guy for sure.
Right. How's Trent Brown look? Good.
Very good.
He actually, and again, it's without pad, so it's a big caveat, but he's doing everything to this point you'd want him to do. And there's still a lot more to do once the pads come on, but he's actually not somebody I've been worried about. He's somebody who looks better than expected to this point.
Yep.
Anything schematically that we're surprised by or curious? One thing that stood out to me, and I talked about this last night on the Sports Hub with Joe Murray, and you can go find that segment on 985thesportshub.com if you missed it. A lot of condensed formation stuff early on, which I like. I think for a number of reasons is good for this offense. So that's been a schematic thing. I think that's stood out to me.
The 3 tight ends was a little surprising today, just because, I know O'Brien's done it in the past, but I don't think we expected them to keep a third here coming into camp. So the fact that they're kind of running it this early like that's interesting to see how that develops.
But again, they don't need to keep a third to make that a part of their offense. Right away, they can elevate guys. So, but that's a fair point. It's something that when they're putting together the bare bones of their offense, they're running 13. That definitely stands out. How's Gesicki doing? Does Mac look comfortable in the offense? Gesicki, we haven't seen much from him, and that's in red zone. So that's I'm more concerned about him than Tyquan because he is a red zone guy. Mac looks more comfortable than he did last year, significantly more comfortable. I don't know that he's fully comfortable yet, but he seems to be on that path.
Yep.
Will we see reps outside of the red zone when the pads come on? I would think so. Yeah. The other thing they love, there's 2 things they love doing in camp: red zone and 2-minute. So I would think we're going to get some 2-minute once the pads come on, and that'll back them up, and they'll have the whole field.
Hopefully.
What does condensed formation mean? So it's the Niners do a lot of this, the Rams do a lot of this, the Ravens do some of it. It's when you don't have that wide receiver out by the number. So it's one example of formation they ran a few times yesterday is Juju Smith-Schuster is relative to the ball before the snap. He's where you would expect the slot receiver to be, but then there's nobody outside him. He's the furthest guy out. And then you do that essentially on both sides. And those are usually formations that come with 12 personnel or 21 personnel. So they were doing some of that in 12. And it can help. It helps in quick release game, which they're going to do. I think it helps when you have a smart quarterback because it's harder for the defense to pick up on assignments when everybody's standing right next to each other. If you're going to use rub routes and pick plays and things like that, a condensed formation helps. If you run RPOs right out of a condensed formation, they can be very effective. So a lot of the stuff we think the Patriots are going to do, or we think the Patriots should do in order to maximize their offense, I think a lot of that is extra effective out of condensed sets. So I do like that they're, how much will they do it? I don't know. It's not like they were doing it the whole day. They did it a handful of times, and they've done it a handful of times over the 3 days, but did they do anything condensed last year? I really don't think so.
They might have done it a little bit when they were trying to do the outside zone and that McVay stuff, but they ditched it pretty quickly, I believe.
Yeah. So, but they were doing it in the context of outside zone. Now it's kind of an oxymoron, but they're using it in the context of spread. And that's a little bit new, but I can see what they're going for with it. And it's something that I think makes a lot of sense given their personnel.
Yep.
I don't know if you have any more thoughts. I kind of flew by that one. If you have any more thoughts on condensed formations.
You kind of hit it all there.
Do we hear anything about Cook? Nope.
He was doing a media tour today, it looked like.
Yeah, he's still in New York. If he is coming to the Patriots, it won't be till, I think tomorrow at the earliest, probably more likely Sunday or Monday. Again, if he's coming, I don't know one way or the other. Are they implementing RPOs? There's a little bit. I'll say this. Don't panic that they're not doing a ton of RPOs yet, because in order to practice RPOs, you need to be able to hand the ball off, and you can't really do that until you get into fully padded practices. So there is room in what they're doing to add RPOs, and we've seen it a tiny bit, but that's another one where they haven't done it to the extent I think they should do it, but they also haven't done it to the extent I think they're going to do it. I think it's just, You're not in pads, you're calling passing plays. That's just what it is.
I'd imagine they're coming more than we've seen.
Me too. All right. Glad we got some questions and we haven't been able to do that all week.
All right. So that'll do it from day 3 here. They'll be back Sunday. I imagine we'll be back too, but we'll see. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on the Patriots Press Pass notification so you do know when we are live. But until then, follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Go read all of his work and listen to him at 985thesportshub.com. Follow me on Twitter at @IamBrianHines, and go read all of my stuff over at patspulpit.com. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next time.